One of the great things about mountain biking is that there's always room for improvement, whether it be physical, technical, mechanical, or indeed on a mental level.
Maybe climbing a new trail or nailing a downhill section or pushing your sense of adventure to a new level. Here's our top 10 ways of becoming a better e-mountain biker.
There are so many ways of improving your speed and your technique on your mountain bike, and I think number one for me is all about sessioning, because when you session a trail, and when I mean session, it means going back up on the same section of track, could be a technical section, uphill or downhill, and improving your technique, your line choice and your speed. So there's three different skills there which you can improve on in one small area of ground. It doesn't need to be massive, it can be maybe a 50-meter section which you simply go and ride time and time again, and you try and pick up on things that you learned on the previous run down there to improve on the next run. So all you need to do is pedal up the side of the track and then hit it again. What you shouldn't be doing is pedaling up that section of track, especially if it's primarily used for downhill use. But sessioning, number one for me. Chris, what do you think?
Definitely, yeah. I think an important part of that is just practicing what you're not actually good at. A lot of riders practice what they are good at, and they shy away from those technical stuff that they don't feel so comfortable on. So practicing that stuff that you aren't very good at is definitely the best way of sessioning, practicing those things.
Yeah, and also maybe have a friend on the side of the track to comment on what you've done right, what you've done wrong.
Film you, stuff like that.
Yeah,
slow motion,
share it.
like
it's all about sharing, Chris.
Sharing the ride.
Sharing.
So number two for me is pushing yourself. So when you're out there on the trails and you think you've done up those climbs, you can't dig any deeper, just count to 10 in your head and keep it going. Keep that effort going, and you'd be surprised how much you've actually got left in your legs. Real good way of training is just getting out on those hills, having some good friends to push you up there as well. Keeps the fun into it as well, a really important part of training.
You count to 10 when you do hill climb?
Yeah, sometimes if you think you're done, you know your tank's on empty, if you count to 10 in your head and keep pushing that same cadence.
I think if I count to 10, I'd fall over after that. Seriously, I didn't realise the technique you used.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good way of digging deeper.
Right.
Every climb after that becomes
easier. What about
easier.
maybe, I think a heart rate monitor is quite a good way to push yourself. If you know your red zone, maybe if you make sure you're getting into those red zones frequently, so you know what your boundaries are on e-bike, because it's really easy to kind of to back off and just hit. When you're feeling the lactic acid in your legs, you can just think, I can just press that button and it'll save me. Avoid the button at all costs, right?
Refrain from the button.
Yeah. Number 3 on the list is to ride with better riders. I've been very fortunate to have ridden with all kinds of people in my life, from Steve Pete to recently a couple of weeks ago with Fabian Burrell, the double world downhill champion, and I was way out of my comfort zone. I was out of my comfort zone going down, going up, and on the trial sections we did at the end of the day. And I think it trends to, it pushes you, right? It gives you the, it gives you the confidence to think, actually, that is doable. I mean, I'm not saying for 1 minute that I would go down to Chris's jumps and suddenly take on a 60-foot gap, because there was absolutely, that's a different kind of skill. But I think the subtle things about technique, going faster, and their body positions are really important things, and line choices. If you can get to ride behind a pro rider on a downhill track, you'll learn so much stuff. Because what it'll also show you is that they are better than you, but they're better over a big distance, whereas little kind of 10 to 20 meter sections, you can probably stick with riders, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think another really good point to add to that is to ride with riders of different disciplines. If you're primarily like a downhill e-bike style rider, if you mix that with like a cross-country style e-bike rider, it's going to show you what they're capable of as well. So mixing up your disciplines and riding with better riders is one of the best ways to improve.
Number 4 on our list is actually to do an epic ride. It teaches lots of things. So it teaches you about riding conservatively with your battery, it teaches you about tyre pressures, it teaches you about what to take,
navigation,
different ground conditions. It really is a fully engaging ride, I think, doing an epic ride. This one I did with Hannah Barnes up in Scotland on the Noida Peninsula. It was pretty epic.
Definitely.
And it teaches you a little bit of self-preservation as well when it comes to weather conditions and learning to read the terrain. I think learning to read the terrain is an important skill to be able to learn. I think it's why recently we went down to the 06 department in south of France. And it's, there's people such as Loic Bruni, Loris Vergier, Nico Vullios, Fabian Burrell. They come from this really tough terrain where you have to learn to adapt to what's in front of you. It's not a bike park. No. Bike parks teach you, there's a certain flow to a bike park, which is inherent to the way it's built. But if you ride natural trails, Great way to improve your riding, right?
Yeah. The other thing, obviously, to improve is pedal assist fun. Obviously, all that tech that you've got on your e-bike, you've got all these different modes, things like that. If you try like one ride, see how far you can go in turbo, next ride, see how far you can go in eco. Mess around with all the different tech that's available on your e-bike. It's a really fun way of getting a bit of training in too.
Now, obviously, myself and Chris are slaves when it comes to gym work. We spend a lot of time in there. But it's not just about the working out sessions. It's about what you take on board as well. You know, it's about the calorie surpluses and deficits. And so we be very careful about what we eat. Try not to eat too many pies and fish chips.
Too much red wine.
Or not too much red wine. Anyhow, I think the point here is to be balanced in terms of your diet and the amount of training you do. Don't overtrain. But for me, as an e-biker, I think it's really good to spend some time on a non-e-bike sometime, just to keep everything in perspective. You know, you don't know whether you're going to be using your bike in eco or trail or turbo too much of the time. So use your legs, go to the gym, do some squats, get on your normal bike so you can get some torque, make sure there's some torque going into your leg muscles.
Yeah, definitely good to mix it up for sure. And I think doing different sports as well, it's not all about just riding your bike, swimming, sports, you know, all those different things as well. It's just going to build the body up. It doesn't all have to be on your bike, so mixing it up is a really good way of staying fit as well. Number 7 is customizing your motor. A lot of the motor brands out there specialize. The Bros Motor and Shimano have the eTube app and the Mission Control app. Both of those are Bluetooth compatible, meaning you can link the motor to your phone and infinitely adjust it. Things like the acceleration, the peak power. It's a lot of fun messing with those settings and seeing all that data up on the screen, you know, when you get back from a ride.
It is. You can see what your output's been. You can see what the system output's been. You can see your height gained, you know, the descent and stuff like that. It's great. Another thing, Chris, is that it's really important to ride in eco mode as much as you can, and actually ride with your motor off and then switch it into eco to show just how much power that bike is assisting you on climbs. You can do so many climbs in eco mode and get so much more out of your battery than you think you can. You know, really, turbo should be used as a last resort on a super technical climb.
Agree. Yeah, I always like to start every single ride off with the motor turned off and then just go into eco, and then you realise how powerful eco is.
Having said that, if you are new to mountain biking, then do use the eco, the turbo mode, just to show what exactly you can go up.
Yeah, what's achievable, definitely.
So we're talking about probably two things here, right? I think if you're a more experienced mountain biker, go for the stuff we talked on earlier in this bit. But then if you're less experienced, then definitely use turbo to explore just what is potentially possible. And that leads us on to the next point, actually, is to go and explore. Because e-biking lets you tackle climbs which are far more technical than you'd be able to do on a non-e-bike. You can go out adventuring without the worry of, you know, maybe you're going to push it back home or
overexertion climbing a big hill.
Exactly.
You know, many a time I've been out on a ride and I've always wondered what's over that hill range over the back, and I've gone up there, explored and found some new trails and managed to link that new hill range in on a new loop. It's all about exploring out there.
I think you can be at a certain spot on an e-bike and go, ooh, shall I go over there? And you can get over there and you go like, ooh, well maybe I'll go over there now. And then you go, oh, well, let's try that hill there. I think that's the great thing about e-bikes.
Definitely. It's just a load of new doors for you.
Great stuff.
So number 9, recovery is almost as important part of riding your bike as well. If you know, a big thing when you're out on the e-bike, it's all too easy to get out there and ride it loads and loads, and then we're probably both guilty of. But you really need to take a couple of days off to recover as well, because you are going to be doing a lot of hard work. So recovery is definitely it's an important part of riding as well. So make sure your body's fit to ride.
I'd say contrary to that. I'd say
ride every day.
I'd say on an e-bike, go every day of the week. It's great fun. So happy to be riding e-bikes. Honestly, it's a great era. It's a great era to be in. And don't waste any of that time.
Number 10 is give your bike some TLC. So we're
Chris, I gotta go. Sorry. What do you say, bike TLC?
Bike TLC. You don't know much about that. No, but keeping on top of your bike maintenance is vital as well, because that's going to make your bike a lot more efficient out there.
Number one,
lubing your chain.
Lubing your chain is number one. Honestly, if it's something you do every day on an e-bike, it's lube your chain.
Definitely, it's one of the you can lose a lot of efficiency for a rusty or worn out chain and drivetrain.
Number 2, tyres.
Tyres, keep inflated tyres. Make sure they're up on a good pressure as well. one, tyre choice obviously is quite vital to make sure that tyre is quite fit for purpose what you're doing. There's no, if you're riding out on the roads and lanes and things, and you've got big knobbly tyres, can be taking a lot of wear on your battery and your components.
Number 3, I reckon number 3 is size of your bike is one thing, the fit of your bike is another thing. So fine tune your cockpit and your seat post and your suspension setup to make sure you're getting the very best out of your bike.
Yeah, and definitely things like rubbing brakes as well. Make sure you've got no rubbing on your brakes. That's going to be rubbing power.
I thought they did rub anyway.
No, they're not meant to be silent. And obviously things like tubeless tyres as well. If you're going out there adventure riding and being out in the middle of nowhere, I suggest you get a decent set of tyres on there and make them tubeless as well, because if you're running tubes, you definitely will get a puncture out there, and you're probably not going to have the kit.
But Chris, you have forgotten one thing.
What's that?
About washing your bike.
Washing the bike as well, yeah. Really good way of checking your bike over after riding. It's going to make your bike a lot more easier to inspect. Things like cracks, wear, things like that. So keeping your bike nice and clean.
There you
definitely a really important part.
And finally, upgrading your bike. Upgrade. Now you're going to be very, very careful here when it comes to upgrading, because we're talking performance, right? Upgrading performance, like we've said it a million times here, is that the performance on an e-bike can be measured quite differently to what performance is measured on a non-e-bike. On a non-e-bike, it's such things as those grams between one cassette and the other. You know, it doesn't matter whether your bike is aluminium, carbon or steel. It's all about reliability on an e-bike, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to upgrading, I'd say things such, I think tyres would be number 1 for me.
Tyres, definitely, yeah. I think like upgrading, I've always talked about upgrading, is you need to be better than that part that you're upgrading. If you're finding problems with your bike, you know,
that's pretty philosophical.
Your suspension is not good enough for you, or you're sliding out in corners because of your tyres, and upgrade those parts. But just don't go spending a few £1,000 on a carbon fibre set of wheels when, you know, you could spend £100 on training and get loads more, you know,
upgrade yourself before the bike.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you know, those small grams really do not matter on an e-bike, honestly. Reliability.
Yeah, get a 1 with your bike. That's the most important thing. Feel comfortable on that bike.
Now, on the subject of upgrades, if you want to check out what is possible and what you can do in your e-bike, check out the video I did with Alan Melloway, just down here.
Yeah, and if you want to check out an epic ride that me and Steve did, The Rock is one of our biggest videos to date. Really true, you know, shows what an e-bike is capable of. If you enjoyed today's video, give us a thumbs up, drop some comments in the box below how you guys become better e-bikers. Don't forget to subscribe to EMBN by clicking the link in the middle of the screen. We'll see you soon.